A 26-year-old couple made a decision so strange that their friends laughed at them. They sold one of their 2 cars and promised not to replace it. For the next 18 years, they shared a single vehicle while everyone around them kept upgrading, leasing, and financing newer cars. By the end of those 18 years, their friends were buried under car payments, refinancing loans, while this couple had quietly built a life most people spend decades chasing. The shocking part? The thing that changed their future wasn't a stock, a business, or a side hustle. It was one decision made in a driveway on an ordinary Sunday afternoon. You and your wife own 2 cars. Both work perfectly fine. Both are paid off. Most people would look at your driveway and think but one Sunday afternoon, while washing the cars, you notice something strange. Most days, one of them barely moves. It sits there collecting dust while still costing money through insurance, maintenance, registration, and future replacement costs. That afternoon, you make a decision that feels ridiculous. You are going to sell one car and not replace it. Not for a month. Not for a year. For as long as possible. At 26, newly married, you sit at the kitchen table and write down the numbers. 2 insurance bills, 2 sets of tires, 2 registrations, 2 maintenance schedules, 2 future car purchases waiting quietly in the distance. Your wife laughs when you suggest selling one. Then she stops laughing when she realizes you're serious. 3 weeks later, the second car is gone. The money from the sale goes into a simple index fund. You don't know it yet, but that single decision will quietly shape the next 2 decades of your life. The first few months feel inconvenient. A calendar appears on the refrigerator showing who gets the car and when. Some mornings require planning. Some evenings require patience. Friends think you've... Daniel and Melissa, another couple your age, do the opposite. They upgrade their vehicles and add another one to the driveway. They tell you life is easier with more options. You nod and say nothing. 4 years pass. The calendar on the refrigerator disappears. Not because you bought another car, but because you stopped needing the calendar. The routine becomes automatic. Your wife carpools twice a week. You ride a bike to the train station. Sometimes you work remotely. Sometimes you share rides. What once felt like a sacrifice now feels normal. One afternoon, Daniel asks how you're surviving with only 1 car. You tell him the truth. We have 1 car. He waits for a more complicated explanation. Meanwhile, the money from the car sale continues growing. Then, the money you didn't spend on insurance grows. The money you didn't spend on repairs grows. The money you didn't spend on monthly payments grows. None of it feels dramatic. It just keeps happening quietly in the background. At 33, a problem appears. You get a new job on the opposites. For the first time in years, buying another car actually makes sense. Your wife brings it up during dinner. We could afford one now. She's right. You absolutely can afford it. But before making a decision, you sit down and do the math. A modest vehicle payment, insurance, fuel, maintenance, and future replacements add up to more than $86,000 over time. Invested instead, that same money could grow into more than $230,000. The room becomes quiet. Neither of you says no. Neither of you says yes. The following week, you buy a used e-bike and continue with 1 vehicle. Years later, you barely remember the conversation. At 37, you have 2 children. School drop-offs, soccer practice, doctor appointments, family gatherings, the exact stage of life when everyone says a second or third vehicle becomes necessary. Daniel and Melissa now have multiple SUVs in their driveway. You and your wife still have 1 vehicle. The logistics aren't always perfect. Sometimes one of you takes public transportation. Sometimes schedules need adjusting. Sometimes someone waits 15 minutes longer than they'd like. But something unexpected happens. The inconvenience never gets worse. Once you solve the problem, it stays solved. The vehicle gets older. The mileage climbs higher. The investment account keeps growing. Most days, you don't think about the account. Most days, you don't think about cars. Life simply continues. At 40, the old vehicle finally reaches the end of its life. The mechanic explains that repairing it would cost thousands of dollars and probably isn't worth it. That evening, you and your wife sit at the kitchen table. You discuss replacement options. Notice something important. You never discuss buying two cars. After nearly 2 decades, that possibility no longer exists in your minds. You purchase a reliable used SUV with cash. No loan, no monthly payment, no financing office, no signatures promising years of future income. You simply buy the vehicle and drive home. The next morning, life continues exactly as before. Meanwhile, Daniel and Melissa are leasing new vehicles again. One contract replaces another. One payment replaces another. The cycle never really ends. At 44, you notice something remarkable. You have spent nearly 20 years without a car payment. Not one. The investment account that began with the proceeds from selling a car has grown larger than you ever imagined. The money saved from avoiding extra vehicles has compounded year after year. Quietly, consistently, predictably, one evening, your wife asks what you should do with the investment account. You look around the house. The mortgage is paid. The children's education is funded. Emergency savings are full. There is nothing urgent left to solve. For a moment, neither of you says anything. Then you realize what actually happened. The decision was never really about cars. It was about freedom. Every vehicle you didn't buy was money that continued working for you. Every payment you avoided became an investment. Every upgrade you skipped became another piece of financial security. The greatest benefit wasn't the money. It was the absence of stress. No monthly payment. No pressure to upgrade. No worrying about keeping up with neighbors. No endless cycle of buying, financing, replacing, and repeating. Standing in the driveway, looking at the only vehicle you own, you finally understand what that decision 20 years ago really purchased. It didn't buy a better car. It bought options. It bought flexibility. It bought peace of mind. And most importantly, it bought time. Because in the end, the most expensive thing about a second car was never the car itself. It was everything that money could have become if you had simply left it alone. And that's why the richest decision you made was not the investment you bought. It was the car you never bought.